celebrate love and acceptance and unity today.
Si te quieres divertir.
No te confundas, no, no, mejor evita. Ey, un shot de cañita en casa de Toñita. PR se siente cerquita. Sí, sí, sí. En el campeonato nadie me lo quita.
Cerveza no me guardes, déjame ver, ¿ok?
Now, one of the things I struggled with as a beginner videographer was finding the right music for my event recap videos. For one, I didn't know where to find music. Two, if I purchased music online, I wasn't sure if I could use it legally online. And lastly, how could I edit a song to match the flow of my edits? All three I figured out through trial and error, and I would like to share my experience with using it in my current project workflow. If you don't know me, my name is Teddy. I'm a cinematographer and founder of Capture Recording Films. And I've created this channel to help any beginner videographer get better at physical video. So whether you want to get better at the craft or you want to eventually make it a profession, here's where I'll be a guide. Welcome to Cosmic Culture. Now, what you just saw was the edited reel using trending music. And if I was to post this song on YouTube, one of three things would happen. First, it would actually be flagged as copyright music. If I try to monetize this video, that means the actual artist or the person who owns the rights to that song would actually be able to get the money from my monetization. Secondly, the video could be blocked worldwide, meaning that in certain places in the world, you wouldn't be able to see that particular video that has that track that is copywritten. Last, they may mute the video or the audio on the track. And of course, a video without audio most likely is not going to be good for viewers. So today I'm going to talk to you about copyright claims versus copyright strikes. Now, copyright claims won't technically be a penalty. That just means that someone owns the rights to that music. You won't get a strike unless the right holder files a formal complaint. Now, for more serious copyright strikes, the rights holder can send YouTube a legal request asking you to remove that track. Worst case scenario, you could lose the video and get one strike against you. Now, if you get 3 strikes in 90 days, that can actually terminate your channel. So for someone just posting recreational, that might not be a big deal. However, for you, if your goal is to monetize your channel over time, you might want to look at a couple of these alternatives. Now, one alternative is the fair use alternative, which pretty much says everything online is fair game. It doesn't mean that your content won't be flagged. It just means that you're using the fair use right to say that you can actually make content related to whatever song or content that's online. Now, fair use only applies in narrow cases like commentary, criticism, or parodies. It's risky to rely on this unless you fully understand how the law works. Instagram, as of August 2025, actually allows you to use trending tracks for your content. And in some cases, they actually encourage fair use of music. Now, the only expectation is if the platform itself, doesn't have the rights in certain countries, they'll restrict the use, which I said earlier that if you try to play it in certain countries, they will not allow your actual content to reach those countries. Now, from my experience, if a track is found in the trending music library, it's fine to post, but I wouldn't suggest boosting or running ads with it because that could be, like I said, considering breaking community guidelines. And technically, if you are gonna try to generate sales or monetization from a music track, I think it's only right that the music artist gets paid for their art. So here's what I suggest if you're using copyright music for personal or professional use. The track you just heard was Nueva York by Bad Bunny, and it's actually purchasable on the iTunes store. Now, upon uploading this video, it was recognized as a copywritten track. Now, when I posted on Instagram, however, it wasn't flagged. Now, if my client wants to run an ad using this reel, it would be a strike against the community guidelines, putting their account at risk. Now, how can you avoid copyright strikes in using music licensing platforms that own the rights? One site that I've known that's becoming pretty popular is Audio. They do have some mainstream tracks that your clients can opt to pay for if you intend on marketing those actual assets online. I personally use Musicbed for licensing. So instead of using specific tracks, there's a feature that allows you to search for tracks using trending music as a reference. If you tend to shoot events where there's dancing, music, I tend to Shazam the track that I think fits my edit, and I'll come back and I use it later when it comes to using references. Now, I tend to pick 3 or 4 tracks to audition that I think fits best with my edit. You can also send the references to your client to suggest which track you're leaning towards. Once they pick the one they think is perfect for the track, you can actually use that to start doing the bed and doing the pacing of your edit. Here's what this could look like in the actual editing software. So let's just say you found the track that you love, but you know you can't use it for the actual edit. What you can do is, I'm in there. So what you can do is you can use in Musicbed, you use search by song, right? And I'm gonna put Bad Bunny song. And it'll give you similar tracks that match the tone, speed, and so forth, right? So this is one track here.
Sigues el ritmo.
All right, that's one. We got Poppy. This one here.
No hay nadie como yo. Ain't nobody like me. Stay 10 toes down. Come around and see. Wanna do it like this, do it like that. Get the vibe on 10, we can run that back. Wanna do it like this, do it like that. There's only one me, you don't even gotta ask. No hay nadie como yo, yo.
And then we have this one here. So I'm gonna download several of these tracks so you guys can see it against the actual. Cool. So after finding 4 tracks I'm going to audition, I created a quick sequence for auditioning these tracks. So you have 8 select clips from this B-roll here, right? So what I do is I lay all the tracks up against one another, right? Scroll this up, add a track. And I just solo each track. All right. So I'll just move it over just so it starts at a different moment. All right. All right, so that's one track. Try this one. that one. There's a lot going on there. Try this one. All right, and this one right here. Let's see this one. All right, so of all the tracks, the one that I like, I would probably say the most is probably the last one. And this is for the sake of this edit, right? So generally what I'm gonna do is, if I'm gonna make a teaser or an edit that's supposed to go on Instagram, right? It has to be roughly under a minute and a half. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut this track to fit a minute and a half, right? And in most tracks, there's different sections. One section that has a lot of energy, one section that crescendos, where it slows down a little bit. One section where there's, you know, a place to put like voiceovers. And in most full edits, you're most likely going to be using multiple tracks. You know, one track for like ambient sounds, one track for the fast-paced moments, and then, you know, one track for like the bridge. But for the sake of this, like I said, tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to cut this track down to roughly a minute and a half. And once you cut it down to a minute and a half, you'll have a feel for how the track is, and you'll have an idea of what clips to put in certain places. Now, like I said, what I did was I just did, the rule of thumb was like every kind of like 2 seconds, I placed a cut. You know, depending on your type of event, it may be slower pace, so that track may not work for you. But the goal is, if you find a track that you like and you think it has an adequate amount of energy for the vibe of how you want your edit to move, just use that as a reference track, and you could always change it down the line. So, like I said, so now that I have all of these here, now how do I cut this track down so that it fits a minute and a half, right? So like I said, one way you can do it is you can select it and do the remix tool, which is right here. When you select the remix tool, you could just bring it to a minute and a half. Which is roughly right here. And that might be fine for, you know, what you're trying to do, right? So let's hear it out. So if I want to go with this track, right, and let's just say it has lyrics in it, but I don't want the lyrics in the actual edit. So that's where you would go here to this track here, to this website, and select the file. So the file I'm going to select is the file that we're using for this edit. Hopefully it's in here. Yes, it is. And it was Poppy, I think it was. Was it Poppy? Yes, it was Poppy. All right, so I'm gonna select that track. All right. So I have both tracks here, right? Now I wanna get the track to a minute and a half, right? So easiest thing to do is I'm gonna select this track, and I'm just gonna listen through it and listen to the key beats and when they transition from different segments of the track, right? So you could also double click it like this. It'll pull up in your source, right? And then you can listen to it and then mark it as it goes along, right? Cool. Cool. So this is the track right here. And the reason why I put markers on the track is because those are most likely where I'm going to put the clips or the selects. And then the sections where, you know, there's a little bit more space between them, I could most likely put dialogue, right? And the cool thing about this is if you have two tracks where together where the vocals are right here, what you can do is you can cut in and out of the vocals as you put dialogue on top of it, right? So when you listen to everything all together, it has the vocals with it. All right. So let me show you how I would cut this up so that it's under 1.5 minutes, right? So this is not, like I said, assuming I don't have my tracks that I'm selecting, right? What I would do is I listen to the first couple of beats and they usually repeat themselves when it starts, so. So I'm probably gonna cut this first section off. So I'll probably cut this part off right here and cut to a section a little bit closer up. So gotcha. So what I'll do is probably gonna cut at this part here. in. Oh, let me just say this. Let's see. Oops. All right, so. So I'm gonna bring this section down here because there's a section where it comes in. And I want to fade that part in. So. All right, and then back here, I'm most likely gonna switch to another section. All right, so I like this section here. So this is another section of the cue here. So I know that these two sections are where the beat drops, so I'm just going to align it so that they both start at the same place. All right, and then I'll just fade. Oops. I'll just fade that section in.
Donde quiero.
Donde quiero con cualquiera, donde sea, papi. Voy. Donde quiero con cualquiera, donde sea, papi.
All right, and then I'm gonna end on that part right there. So I'll look at how this track ends, right?
Papi. Voy.
All right. So I'm gonna cut at this point here. And I'm gonna cut at this one.
Donde quiero.
And then I'll bring it down and I'll fade it so that it comes in there. So this is a rough segue, but let's check it out. Let's see how it sounds. So one thing you could also add here is a reverb so that it rings out. The easiest way to do this is by nesting this section right here, opening it up and duplicating the actual last beat. I'll turn it off so that it just allows me to space out the track, and then I'll add a studio reverb here. And like I said, you could play around with the settings, but typically you can do Great Hall, which is, you know, a good preset, but let me have the sounds. All right. And then, like I said, the different sections, the cool thing about this is that you can hide different cuts by adding different effects like swooshes, hits, risers, and so forth as well. So for some reason, like I said, the timing is off and it is not flowing the way you would like it to flow, you could always add risers and hits at those specific transitions, and you can accompany the actual visuals with that, right? And that's kind of like how you can, you know, keep your videos engaging, because on the parts where they either crescendos and things slow down, or when things speed up, you can put an effect there to point out that specific point of your edit, right? So you could also add other effects, sound effects, to enhance your edit and hide certain cuts if it doesn't sound like it's going the way you prefer. There you go. So that's the framework that I use to pretty much create a teaser edit based on a track that's copywritten. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I just shared an alternative to using copyright music. I shared my current workflow to find similar music for your project, which is free or a paid project. And most importantly, what's the worst thing that could happen to you if you were to use music without permission? In future videos, I'll share an advanced technique on how you can sound mix and sound design your projects. Nothing too complicated, just a few skills that I've learned to help me improve my editing skills along the way, which is pretty much what this channel is about. You know, as a content creator, it's important to try different things and put your work out there. And it was one content creator named Simeon who shared this post. He said that, you know, if you don't know what to post, it probably means you stop learning. And that's my hope with this channel, is to help any beginner videographer get inspired and continue to try different things out of their comfort zone and become better at the skill of video and video editing. So if you take anything else away from this video, just keep creating, and I'll see you along the way.